is brought to you by Suzuki Kyalami, the home of happy customers.
The Tom London Show.
You're on board for another hour of conversation and fun. I hope you're feeling good this Thursday afternoon.
Thank you very much.
3 p.m. Can you believe this week has flown past pretty quickly? It has. It's been a fast one. We get into that part of the year where everything just seems to accelerate. Like it was January yesterday, and before you know it, it's Christmas and New Year. It's like that part of the year. Blink, it's over. Will the president resign? Should the president resign? These are the questions that people have been asking themselves this week. We'll be talking about that on the show today, and we'll be looking at what's happening in the news around South Africa on today's show. Your comments in the comment section on YouTube Live, where the show's broadcast, as well as Facebook Live. You join the dysfunctionals if you go into the comment section on the Facebook Live page. That's where you can make friends. Sometimes people fight with each other, but that's rare. Most of the time, people are nice and friendly to each other in the comment section. That could be you. You could go, how's it, dysfunctionals, and make a friend in the comment section. Also be looking for your comments as we roll through the topics this afternoon. I hope you're warm. I hope you haven't been affected by the storms too much. You know, that's the nice thing about Joburg is we don't have really bad weather. We don't have cyclones and hurricanes and earthquakes and stuff like that. And it's very rare that the roofs get blown off buildings in Joburg. Very rare. But Cape Town and the Cape Province this last week, did you see those videos where, you know, an office block looking fine, a bit windy, the palm trees are bending a bit, and the next thing the roof goes, meow, cheers, China, I'm off to Port Elizabeth. Very dangerous. I think there are thousands, tens of thousands of people have been displaced. That doesn't really affect you when you're in Johannesburg. You're like, displaced, misplaced. I mean, but if you're one of those tens of thousands of people who've been displaced, it's a massive problem. This should probably be the number one news story in South Africa. But because we've got so many competing headlines, it falls down the list of news stories. I mean, I'm just looking at IOL. I like them because they don't have a paywall. You've got to, all our South African media sites, you've got to question where are they coming from, what's their agenda, what's their bias. But I see IOL are reporting that 10 people have died. Nearly 90,000 people have been displaced. I'm just looking at it now. Residents in the Western Cape face a daunting recovery as a catastrophic storm leaves 10 dead. They need 90,000 people. That's FNB Stadium, full. That's how many people it is. So I send my thoughts and good wishes and prayers to anyone who's been affected by the storm. As I say, when you're up on the Highveld, these things don't really make much of a difference in your life, but it is a national story, and I think it should be the number one story. But it's not. Our politicians are hogging the headlines, as they usually do. And I don't know about you, I did speak about it briefly on Tuesday. The other day when we were told there was going to be a family meeting, President Cyril Ramaphosa was going to address the nation. Reminded me of P.W. Botha's Rubicon speech back in 85, 86, somewhere around there, where the country was thinking, P.W. Botha is going to stand up and say, yeah, we've got to end this thing called apartheid. And he didn't. He just stood up there and said, nothing's going to change. And the rand dived and the economy tanked and the country found itself on a new trajectory. But a lot of people the other night were thinking, President Cyril Ramaphosa is going to resign. I was telling all my friends who were saying that to me, not a chance. Our politicians don't really know how to resign. If you take a look at the British politicians, for example, I'm not saying that's a better system or they're better politicians, but I mean, you won't survive. And Boris Johnson couldn't survive having a glass of champagne with his friends in the office during COVID. That was the end of the presidency. I mean, you make one slip up that the British public don't like, and you resign, China. You don't even wait to get fired or a commission of it. Nothing. You just say, I'm terribly sorry, I made a massive mistake, and the only thing I can do now is hang my head in shame and disappear off into the wilderness to go and become an ambassador or a trade envoy or something. And off they go. But in South Africa, our leaders hang on, man. You can throw 10 scandals at a South African politician. Throw 15 scandals. They're all like John Gotti's. They're Teflon Dons. You can throw 20 scandals at a South African politician. You can call out their double standards. You got politicians saying, everyone should be on national health care. We all go to the same clinics. And then you say, yeah, boy, yes, we must do that. And then that same politician, when they go, they're off to the best private hospital down the drag. So you can call them out on this. You can say, you say you're for the poor, but you live in a 20 million rand house with driving around in 3 million rand cars. That can't be possible on your salary. We call you out, and the politicians remain. They all just remain. It's sometimes I think, do you remember back in the day, there used to be, was it the Rand Club in Joburg, CBD? That's where all the people with money, like real money, the deal makers hung out, and they sat there and smoked fat cigars. No women were allowed. They sit there and suck their cigars and go, oh, yeah, Harry, there's a diamond mine for sale in Zimbabwe at the moment. I know the president quite well. Do you think we should go? And it was a club. It was more than just a club to go and smoke cigars and socialize. It was a place where you met and you had privacy and you were with your own kind. And then you sat there and you made deals and you did stuff to benefit yourself. Sometimes I think South African politics is a bit like that. It's like a club. Once you're in, almost in America, I don't know if anyone's ever experienced this in South Africa, but I did as a teenager in the States. When you move into a new neighborhood, at least back in the 80s, these ladies would knock on your door the very next day, ding dong, knock, 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 and say, hi, we're from the welcome wagon. So what the hell is the welcome wagon? We're from South Africa. We only know Cook Sisters and Milk Tarts, but no ways. The welcome wagon ladies would arrive, and there'd be 5 or 6 of them, and they'd bring a big gift basket with all sorts of goodies to welcome you to the neighborhood. And then there would be advertising for businesses and stuff in there because it's America. And sometimes I think that our politicians need their own welcome wagon. You know, when you finally become an MP or you get appointed as a minister or something, so some people arrive at your house and ding dong, knock, 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 and they come to the door and they say, well, welcome to South African politics. You're now part of the club. This is how it works. Let's sit down with you and tell you how this actually works. Rule number 1, never resign. The political welcome wagon. So the question I put on the post today was, should Cyril Ramaphosa resign? Should our president resign? Now, I'll give you my position right up front. I'm not going to be devious or vague about it. I think the president should resign. I think in any normal functioning democracy, when you find out that the president... I mean, what would happen to you if it came out that you had millions of dollars or rands, whatever, in your couch? You'd be in trouble, man. Do you think you'd be able to put millions of rands in your Goma Goma or your Grafton Everest and just leave, and people know about it, or they got stolen and say, oh yeah, that was mine. Do you think that you would be in trouble? You'd have to answer questions. SARS, the cops, Treasury, they'd all be asking you questions. Where did that money come from? How did it come into the country? Why was it in the couch? Why not in a bank account? We do all of those questions. The normal citizen would face them, and it'd probably be some swift justice. But you know, when you're a politician, then 2 things happen. One, the scrutiny is even more. So you can't say that we look at these things and ignore them. We don't. The pressure has been piled on the president for a long time now over Pala Pala. But the other thing that happens is you're pretty protected, unless the majority of parliamentarians impeach you and they say, well, you must go, which would be embarrassing for any South African politician. None of them like to be told to go, and that's where we are at the moment. I see the EFF and MK walked out as President Ramaphosa faced a heated parliament session. That's the latest news I'm seeing coming up on IOL. And Parliament has appointed a 31-member panel to reassess the Pala Pala report with impeachment on the table. Now, if it got to the impeachment vote, we can already see that the EFF and the MK walked out. They're not interested in this president. So I doubt they would vote to keep him in, which means that the DA are the people that he needs on his side, should it get that far. I'm not sure it will, because the president said the other night, I'll take it on review. And I think that's just fancy speak for I'll fight this. And I think at the end of the day, the president wants to finish his term and leave on good terms. And I don't know what's going to happen in the future. But so my answer is yes, I think he should. I think any politician, but you know, if we applied those standards to all our politicians, they'd all, pretty much all of them would have to resign and we'd have no government. And that brings me to my real answer, which is yes, he should resign, but he mustn't. Because I ask myself what the consequences are. If the president resigns, who's our next president? Taking into account any factions inside the African National Congress, which way that party could go left, could go right. And once you remove the president, the current president of the ANC and the country, you cause a ruction in the ruling, if you can, they're not really the ruling party anymore, but let's call them that for now. You cause a ruction and the party could swing left, it could swing right, and South Africa could find itself going in a different direction very quickly, policy-wise. And who the partners are in government could change. A lot of things could change, and maybe not for the better. So my answer is yes, I think he should. I think any decent person would go, yeah, I made a mistake, I'm out of here. But at the same time, we've got a country to think of and stability that we need, at least until the elections, when we can go and vote and decide who we want in government. And so I think that the president should not resign. Yes, he should, but I don't think he should. Does that make sense? I don't know if it's making sense to you. I hope it is. I see someone who didn't need to resign was the social development minister, Sisisi Tolashe. She got fired today. A lot of things happening. People getting arrested, getting fired all over the show. So many that you can't fit it into the headlines. But she's gone. You know, she was... Did you see what she did? And we'll get to your comments in a moment. Did you see what one of the allegations is? Ministers are allowed to have a household worker. I don't know, someone who walks around polishing things and cleaning up. And the state will pay for that person in the residence. But it's got to be a house that the minister lives in or has residence in. And that's all fair and well. But anyway, old Minister Tolashe, it seems, she got a daughter down in the Eastern Cape somewhere. And she said, oh, that's my house too. And I need a domestic worker. And so government paid her 15,000 odd rand a month into the domestic workers. But it was split in two, 8,000 for the domestic worker and 7.5 or something like that for household costs and expenses. So in other words, the minister said, oh, yeah, I think my daughter needs a domestic worker. I'll get the government to pay for that. And not only will I get the government to pay for it, if the domestic worker costs 8 grand, I'll give 7.5 to my daughter as well. Hey, wouldn't that be nice if we could all run around and do stuff like that? Anyway, she has been given the bullet. She's out. But I mean, she can't be the only one. I'm sure if you scratched around and said, all right, who are the domestic workers for all of our ministers and where are they? And you did that kind of, you'd find, I reckon you'd find it's not just Sisisi Tolashe. I think you'd find a few more. And that's the problem with South Africa at the moment. The stealing. People call it corruption. Let's call it stealing. The stealing is out of hand. It's out of hand. We know it's out of hand. We've got to control it. How? That's my question to you. Let's go to the comment section, see what you've got to say on this fine Thursday. Alistair Jameson is on board and says, good afternoon, Dysfunctionals. Rosie Brown says, hello. Margaret Guider is on board, one half of the Guider counters. Anita Mainhardt, yes, like, did that cause trouble with me, hey? That power bank. I sent it off with someone I know, told them to go send it to Anita. And then Anita gave me instructions, said it needs to come to the PEP. And then the courier company they took it to couldn't send it to the PEP. And so it came back to me yesterday morning. And I thought, oh, Anita needs that power bank that she won on the show. Let me go to the courier company down the road. I'm not going to mention the name. Let me go to the courier company down the road and I'll just courier it directly to her door. It'll take 2 days, I think, it takes to get down to the South Coast. So I was in an okay mood yesterday. I wasn't in a bad mood. I was quite happy. And then I walked into the courier company, and the first thing that I thought when I walked in there was, this feels like the old South African post office. Now that came as a surprise to me, because we know what happened to the post office. It's stuffed. And we know why. And we also know what the attitude of the staff was or were when you walked into the post office. You'd always get a rubbish attitude from people because, well, if they treat you nicely, it's the same as if they treat you badly. They still get the pay at the end of the month. So you wouldn't expect this from a private company, the same kind of feeling, the same kind of attitude. But I walk into this courier company and it was quiet and dark and dingy inside, and there were two people at little counters where I suppose you go, I don't know much about courier, right? And I've never posted much. So this is a new thing for me. And I thought, okay, well, I'll go in there and someone will help me. And I went up to this lady and I said, I need to send this down to this place. And she went like this. She said, go fill out one of those waybills over there, like that. And I still thought, she's much younger than me. I'm old enough to go, hey, respect me, I'm old now. But I didn't. I thought, oh, okay, well, she's not having a good day. And so there was a counter there, but the counter was at sitting height, but there are no chairs. It's just like the post office. And I had to bend over. I was bent over like 90 degrees to fill out this form. And I don't know if I'm filling it out right. I got questions. I need help. And I made one comment. I said, this is not very comfortable. I looked at her and I said, this is not very comfortable. That's what I said. And I thought she would say, let me help you, sir. Come here, let's work. She blasted me. She gave me attitude. So I thought, well, you give me attitude, I give you attitude. Here we go. I haven't had a fight in 2026. Let's go. Rumble in the jungle, baby. Excuse me. And I blasted her. And then she blasted me. And after about a minute, I thought, this is sounding like a relationship that's gone wrong. This is like an ex-girlfriend and I fighting. What's going on here? Why is the courier lady fighting? Why does this sound like a bad marriage? And I was like, oh, man. And we were like, wow, between each other. And eventually, she just got up, which I suppose was the smartest thing to do. She got up and she walked out. That was it. Gone. Done. And I'm like, is that how you deal with conflict resolution? I'm shouting, and off she went. She didn't care. Off she went. And then I dealt with one of the other people and two other people. They were very pleasant. I think she was having a bad day, and I think I walked in at the wrong moment. And I caught her at a bad moment. But man, was I upset. I was like, tomorrow on the show, I'm going to be discussing customer service for 60 minutes. So I'm not going to do that. But that's what happened yesterday, trying to get this power bank down to the South Coast. Well, I left the courier business and I thought, I don't like what happened. Why did we have that fight? Might have been my fault, but I think it was hers. Why did we have that big fight, man? How do I sort this out? Because I'm going to have to walk in there again someday and go, hi, it's me again. I need to send... So I went to the supermarket. And I bought PS bars. You know those PS I love you bars? And I spent 10 minutes finding the right ones. The one said, be my friend. The other one said, #winning. I picked three of them with different, really appropriate to our argument, 3 different messages on. And I went back to the courier company. And I walked inside and I went up to her. She thought I was gone, so she came back inside. She was sitting behind the counter. And I thought, well, here we go, baby. And I had the chocolates and I said, listen, I think you need some sugar. I didn't know what she was going to say when I said it, because you know what I was implying. You're not being sweet. What's wrong with you? Here's a sweet for you. And I said, and then I put the 3 bars down in front of her. And I said, but you only get to choose one. And choose very carefully now. Do you want to be my friend? And then she smiled. And then I smiled. And I shared the chocolates around the shop. And everyone was happy. And I walked out okay. So I think the moral of the story is a lot of arguments can be sorted out with a chocolate bar. That's the moral of the story. Most arguments, if you just go back with a slab of Nestle biscuits or something, it's okay. Argument's over. That's what I learned yesterday. You can fix an argument with a PS I love you. But she didn't choose the I love you one. That was sorting out Anita Maynard's power bank. Sharis Davis Hannibal says, hi all, love you guys. Anita says, like a cool day in Pamula, KZN. That was another thing. I got to write on the form, Pamula. I'm like, will these people even find Pamula? Because Anita said, oh, I don't know, we don't get courier companies here. I was like, well, I asked them, will you find it? So, no, we've definitely find it. We've got a couple of customers in Pamula, so I reckon you will find them. Good afternoon, all the dysfunctional, says Heather Knickelbein. Uniguida says, hello, everybody. Lil Marie Cook, how's it? British politicians don't start such a mess. They're all a hot mess, aren't they? Life's too good for Cyril and Co to resign, says Margaret. Good afternoon, everyone, says Carol. How are you all? I'm okay. I'm doing all right. Uniguida says, the British politicians, go check the international news about China Bean. You are far too young to be calling people China Bean. If you want to call someone China Bean, you have to have been born in the 70s. How old are you? You're 40? You were born when? 80-something? No, you can't. I don't know. Maybe. You're on the edge. Like a millennial and a Gen Z. I don't think they should be allowed to use the word China Bean. A Gen X, yeah, we can. Boomers, yeah. But younger than that, I'm not sure about this China Bean story. Starmer is going nowhere. There are a ton of memes out. Celia Mostad. Hey, it's been a while since I've seen Celia. Tom, it was horrific down here in Plet last 7 days, but the community stood together and united as one. Yeah, that was one of the pictures I saw, or videos or whatever, of is it the Beacon Island Hotel in Plettenberg Bay? And then there was so much water that it actually became an island. There were it was sitting there like on its own island. And there was some post going, the Beacon Island Hotel is an island today. And I'm not sure that was a good thing. Emily Hudson says, hi, dysfunctional family, Tom's Army. Margaret Guida says, our government and many other politicians are benefiting nicely, being crawled in with the mafia. They're feeling very safe. I don't think they feel that safe, because if they felt safe, they would not need bulletproof cars. They would not need bodyguards. They would not need cavalcades. Did you see the health minister his cavalcade mowed down a lady with a baby on her back the other day? Did you see that? Did you see what happened? Minister Motsoaledi was traveling, I think, in the Northwest Province. There'd been an accident. There was a lady on one side of the road with a kid strapped to her back. She was crossing the road to get to her husband who'd had the accident, and the minister's cavalcade took her and the kid out. Now, I've only got one question. How fast was the cavalcade driving? We'll never know, will we? Were they doing 100? Were they doing 160? I think that makes a difference. But that's just me. They're feeling safe because they've got protection. In more ways than one. Lil Marie Cook lives in the UK. I remember when we say goodbye to you. And he just says, yes, and burn his couch. He should resign and burn the couch. Margaret Guida says the president should resign, but who on earth can run this country successfully? Well, that's my question. I mean, if Cyril Ramaphosa is forced to resign and then tomorrow you get, I don't know, Fikile Mbalula, would you be happy with that? Or Paul Mashatile, would you be happy with that? Would you rather have President Ramaphosa than President Mashatile? Would you rather have President Ramaphosa than President Mbalula? You get to decide, It depends how hard you want to push. Nikki Hart says, hiya, Tom's Army. Nikki was telling me about her avocados today. I don't know, she got like an avocado farm or something. Alistair James says, oh, but Tom, it was not in his couch, it was stolen by an intruder who has been arrested and sentenced according to the man himself in his armchair address. Yes, and there's a disparity between how much the thieves spent after stealing the money and how much was supposedly in the couch, and the one is more than the other. So who then, pray tell, must take over? EFF and MK? Then we are screwed. You see, that's the thing. That's the thing. What happens if the ANC goes one way and the next thing the DA is out and there's EFF, MK and ANC in a majority government? Would you be happy with that? I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just asking, would you be happy with that? The ANC and the DA standing together? Never. Are you being sarcastic? They are. They're in a honeymoon bed at the moment, And I don't trust politicians when they say, oh, no, we would not protect President Ramaphosa. That's what you say today, China. That's China Bean. That's what thank you, Daryl. That's what you say today on Thursday. But next Thursday, you might turn around and go, on second thoughts, for the sake of the country, we will. And then everyone goes, hurrah! And they got us. Gert Delaray. Hi, Tom. Are you still helping people who are stuck in government hospitals, need urgent assistance? I've noticed a few requests on Facebook. Yes, I am. And you might have missed a venting session I had about a week ago about this, because there are just too many people. When I say too many, there are far too many requests coming at me at a daily basis for me alone to fix everything. But what happens is, at least once a day, I speak to someone who has got a problem that can be sorted out if they go to the doctor or the nurse at the hospital they're at and say, Tom London is talking to me. And that seems to be very effective for a lot of people. We have a conversation on WhatsApp. They say, Tom, I'm stuck in whatever hospital. They haven't done anything for 5 days. It's getting ridiculous now. I say, okay. And we chat on WhatsApp and I say, show them this conversation and show them that I'm watching. And if it doesn't improve, we'll put this on the show. And 10 times out of 10, the situation gets resolved. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen on camera, so you don't get to see what's happening behind the scenes, and I also don't want to put it on camera because it's actually working very nicely. The threat of me getting involved. If I get involved, then it becomes a fight. And so that is, I've noticed over the last year or so, that's becoming the most effective way for me to intervene. And then there are people that need to sue the hospitals and the health departments, and I help them there. I guide them to attorneys that can do it. And on a daily basis, I speak to people about this. And there'll be a guy, I think I've got to call him back today, a guy called Mike, who he's got a big problem. He got I don't know, I can't remember what it's called, a hernia, but it's a hernia that moves or something. It's like a problem hernia. And there's this operation that you can get in private hospitals that's sorted out. He might need our help. So yes, Gert. However, I noticed over the last year and a half that Tom London on his own is not going to be able to fix the big problem in this country. To fix the big problem, we need political will and we need real change in our healthcare system. And the only way to do that is to vote real change in. However, I've been racking my brain for a year or more, like, where can I make a difference? And I've been banging on about efficiency in the healthcare system, and so I'm working with a business partner at the moment to make some parts of our healthcare system way more efficient using technology. So I'm focused on that. I've always had this question, how can I make the biggest impact, just me? And it seems that trying to improve efficiency might be the best way to get a broad impact. But to answer your question, yeah, every day. Every day I speak to people. Every day something happens. Every day someone gets better treatment because they showed a conversation or something. But to be honest, I don't think I'm probably helping about 5% of the total number of requests that are coming through, just because I haven't got enough time. And there's some nights that I go to bed feeling very, very depressed because I couldn't help all these people that asked for help that day. It makes it difficult, and sometimes it weighs on my shoulders. It weighs me down. But yeah, I do as much as I can on a daily basis. Eunice says, just as bad in Germany. The Chancellor won't leave either, and most don't want him. These politicians have learned a new game, eh? I know, go. Nikki Hart says, yep, my sentiments. Removing Ramaphosa at this stage is likely to leave the country in a worse state. We always land up in this situation, don't we? Well, Helen Mittwach will catch up later, everybody. Alistair Plint. Is that my friend? No. I had a friend called Graham Plint. Was it Graham? Graham Plint, one of my friends. You know how you have a friend for a year or two, they're your best friend, and then you go to high school and it changes. But I had a friend called Graham Plint. His dad was the Methodist minister in Springs, and I used to go to the Plint's house, and Graham would come to my house. And so when I see the name Plint, which isn't a very common name, I think of Graham. We are Facebook friends, but I don't know Alistair. Are you one of the brothers or something? I found my wife's 9-carat earring in my couch. I've got bad news for her because I'm not resigning either. I know the deal now. Alistair Plint deserves a drum roll, Daryl. Yeah. 2 drum rolls for Alistair. That was a good one. Margaret Guider says, it's actually talking about couches. I don't know if you've ever done this, but years back, Nowadays, I don't have many people visit me, but when I was in my 30s, my house was always open and friends would come in and out and sit in the lounge on the couch and talk nonsense for hours and light a fire and just have fun. And then you'd be surprised. You give it a few months and then you lift the cushions and you stick your hand down there. You find some 5 Rand coins. Sometimes you find an earring. You find stuff in the couch. You could turn it into a business if you got enough people coming to visit you. You get one of those couches where you slope back on and falls out of your pocket. You could turn your couch into a money-making machine. Alistair says the department cars were registered in her daughter's name as well. Yeah, well, she threw the daughter under the bus at the commission the other day. Glenda Lawrence says, afternoon, everyone. I have to catch up later. Have a wonderful weekend. Well, hello for later. This is later. Now you're watching, and hello, Glenda. Same treatment at Dischem yesterday, says Mara Nicole Shillen. Yeah, those Dischem ladies, I quite like them, but every now and then you get a fraught one. Every now and then, sometimes, there are times that I've been to the chemist, the Dischem chemist. Firstly, I like Dischem. I don't have a problem with the company. And I think we all have to buy something from them from time to time. But one, I don't like queues, and they got that queue thing. They got the Woolworths queue thing where you all stand in a row and then wait for serving customer 249, and you look at your, okay, that's me. Or next counter 7, and off you go. And it's like, bah, bah, here we go, bah, and then off you go to the counter. And then sometimes, most times you get someone who's relatively pleasant, but you're like the 400th person they've seen that day. And everyone's coughing on them and spitting and like viruses and bacteria everywhere and fungi. And they got to sit there and look at your sorry, sick ass. And they got to serve you with a smile. And some of them you can just see. Like I had a lady the other day. I didn't even have to ask her. Having a bad day, having a bad life, having a bad career. No, I didn't have to ask. I could just see it in her face. She looked at me and she was like, good afternoon, sir. And I could see that in her brain. She was thinking, another one of these sick bastards. I could see it. So yeah, sometimes you do get that kind of treatment. Because those tellers, those tellers are like people working on a production line. It's like picking the yellow Smarties out. It's just the same thing. I wouldn't want to do that job. You sort that out by a bad review to follow. I just, my tactic is shouting, buying her chocolate, you're crazy, but you got guts. Classic. Well, I was like, I couldn't leave it because I didn't have the last word, you see. She had the last word as she walked out the door, and then I was like, bop, bop, and I was like, she didn't hear that. She didn't hear my last word of the argument. And that bugged me. I must be honest, that bugged me. I was like, no, I need to have that. And how am I going to have the last word? I can't go back in there and restart the argument. That would be stupid. But I thought those P.S. bars, P.S. I love you, P.S. besties, P.S. winning. Let me go in with those and say, you need to be sweetened up, and see what she says. Anyway, she took the chocolate. Thanks, Daryl. P.S. Thank you, my friend Tom. Well, let me know when you get it. Mara Nicole Shannon says, I think all working females should be given 1 week off a month. In fact, in a 28-day cycle. No comment from my side, but no, I will not comment on that. No. Lil Marie Cook says, I agree. No China beans allowed, especially not the millennials. They're not allowed to use China bean. I think I know that courier company, Tom. Yep, like a pigsty it is. You never take out your bad moods on the job. Only you could have done that with the chocolate story. I thought quick there. I just, you see, I grew up in a family that had retail businesses. And so from when I was 5 years old, I would go with my dad to work on weekends. And you would get taught in the car. You would get taught what kind of job it is. You would get told there were things I got taught by my family. Things like the customer is king. Not the customer's always right. There's a difference. The customer is king. The pen that sits on the counter of the business is not your pen. It is owned by the business. The same with the money in the cash drawer. It's not your money. It's owned by the business. You don't take this thing home and you don't take the money home because you don't own it. These were the lessons that were taught to me. And one of the big ones was, you are a servant. Now, when you hear that word servant, with all its connotations, I think most people, when they hear the word servant, they go, oh, no, I don't want to be a servant. Why would I want to be a servant to anybody? I'm not nobody's servant. I ain't nobody's biatch. So this is what people think. I shouldn't have done that, I suppose. Anyway, apologies. But people have that attitude. I'm not going to be a servant. But that's what you do in retail. You serve people. You're there to serve. And when you are a servant, when you serve people, you have to question what attitude you need. You have to figure that out, what kind of attitude. And it's obvious, even to someone with a very low IQ. You can even teach this to a very stupid person, that if you smile and you're friendly, things will go a whole lot better. Very, very simple stuff. You can have very bad dysfunction going on in your head and very little brain power, and you could learn that. So it always amazes me when you walk into a service business and you don't get a smile. I mean, it's like, come on. Did I rile you up, China Bean? Daryl, no drum rolls for Uniguider today. None at Daryl. I told you, no more drum rolls for you. I will fire you, China. I was going through your employment contract with Human Resources this morning. You're skating on thin ice. Me, Gen Z, thanks for the compliment. Apparently I look very young. Yeah, you do. You look younger than your age. You really do. Health Minister, yeah. Why do we need anyone to run the country? I remember having this thought, Claire, about 5 years ago. When, or maybe a bit long, it started when there was a police strike. The police didn't work or something. And I thought, yeah, but there wasn't much crime today. And then I noticed that, on public holidays, Christmas Day and stuff, generally you don't need the police. Like there are days of the year where you just don't need the cops. I said, well, I wonder what would happen if you just removed the police. Would crime go up? Would crime go down? I mean, logic would tell you that crime goes up, but this is not a very logical country. It might be that if you get rid of the police, crime goes down. I don't know. And it might be that if you say we don't need a massive government, we don't need national ministries. And I quite like this idea, right? I love Weltevreden Park. So if I could put a fence around like not a proper real fence, not like a Donald Trump fence, but like a geo fence, to say, right, this is Weltevreden Park, and Weltevreden Park runs its own clinic, runs its own roads, runs its own sewerage, runs its own this, runs its own that, maintains all of that, and then we collect money from all the houses and people in Weltevreden Park, which you pay in any way, which you pay to the city of Joburg or whatever. You just pay to the Weltevreden Park management company. And then we look after our own stuff. I think that would work better. I really do. And you could say, oh, well, what about the big stuff? Well, what big stuff? What do you, only thing is like big hospitals. Yeah, Weltevreden Park doesn't have a big hospital. Okay, we'll make a deal with another suburb down the road that's got the big hospital, and we'll do a deal with them. And they can also run their own stuff. I think that would work a whole lot better. I really do. The older I get, the more I look at what works in the world and what doesn't, the more it seems that this centralized power thing where the government controls everything just means that they're going to stuff everything up. And the less control they have, the better. Let them control foreign affairs and sports and stuff like that. But the important stuff, I think communities could do it better. I think we could fix our potholes faster. I think we could maintain the sewers better. I think we'd do a whole lot better if in your suburb, wherever you live, but in my case, if we all got together and said, right, we're going to run this place ourselves, I think we'd be okay. I think we'd do a whole lot better than the politicians, and I agree with you, Claire. Do we even need politicians in 2026? AI could probably run the country. Now you're earning your money, China. So glad the Tom threat factor helps. Well, it's not something I like to do, but I noticed it worked. Because some people, I noticed when I go out and people say, can I have a picture with you? And I go, yeah, why? And they go, no, I want a picture with you. So I stand there and I go, cheese, and then we have a picture. And then I start asking these people, why are you wanting pictures with me? Say, no, because when we go to the clinic, we show the nurse the picture. Then they treat us properly. So, yeah, it does still that's Tonya Curry sending me voice messages. It's to a certain degree, it still works. And so, yeah, that's still working. Never lose your Viking way, Tom. You know how to sort out some hectic stuff with the people. Just get your Viking helmet for you. That's my problem. I did tell you, I've said to you on the show before, I'm not a saint. And my constant struggle in life is not fighting. I freely admit that. I've got no fear of confronting power. I've got no fear of speaking truth to power. I've got zero fear of opening my mouth, even if it's going to be uncomfortable or it's going to be a confrontation. I'll do it. But that's not a nice way to live, fighting all day. And so I spend most of my time making sure I don't fight with anyone. I actually fight with very, very few people, but every now and then someone does something and I go, not today, Charlie. Democracy in action, would you resign? Said Fred Ross. No. Oh, well, I wouldn't get myself in that position in the first place. If someone was going to pay me 10 million bucks or something in cash, I wouldn't leave it in a couch 500 Ks from where I live, or 300 Ks or whatever from where I live. I'd be lifting the floorboards and putting it under my bed. I'd be sleeping on top of that. I wouldn't even leave it in the couch in another place. But I suppose if you've got enough money, you don't have to worry about that. Yeah, I forgot about the show today. So happy to stumble across you guys, says Manny Caddison Wilson. Drum roll for Manny Wilson. Jeez, that was loud. Thank you, Tom, for doing the courier thing. Sorry about the hard time. No, it's my pleasure. Alistair says, Graham is my cousin, Reverend Des. That's right, Des Plint. He was the minister. Des was my uncle. Thanks for the shout-out. Brings back lots of happy memories. I think the house that they lived in was opposite Springs Boys High, if my memory... I'm going back 50 years so on this one. So, yeah. Oh, wow, Alistair. Nice to meet you. Were you also a Springs boy? Did you grow up on the East Rand, or did you grow up somewhere else? Lee Cummins says, awesome show, good listen, agree on the discount thing, by the way. Lee, hello, Lee, nice to have you with us, hope to see you again. Eunice says, I'm not a discount fan. The groot koppe let contractors do the work for them and then they don't pay, not very high morals. I often wonder what those poor ladies who sit there at the tills earn. I don't think it's very much, like 5-6 grand a month. What do they earn? I think a teller in a supermarket earns about 6 grand a month or something. It's not a lot of money, and when you're earning that money and you've got to take abuse from people or people coughing on you all day, you probably get to a point where you go, yes, like this isn't worth it, but I've got to, you know. They're probably all sitting there going, I hate this job. I reckon they are. Like, I reckon most people behind the tills are going, I hate this job. I just hate this. I hate it. Wednesday, I'm playing the lotto. I hate this job. I wish I didn't have to do it, but damn it, I'm a breeder. I've got 2 children, and I need to put them through school, and this pays the school fees. I think that's it. So rather have President Ramaphosa, Sharon. I think that's what we have to do. Tom, don't tell anyone, but tomorrow is Lil Cook's birthday. I won't. Good customer relations in Joburg is good as non-existent all around. You see, that's why I like these businesses that I highlight on my channel from time to time, like Buccaneer Biltong at the Allen's Neck Shopping Centre, because of Thuli. When I go in there, she shouts, Tom! I shout, Thuli! And we give each other a hug. And Thuli cuts my biltong and finds the biltong like exactly the way I like it. And I always go into the Checkers and I buy a lunch bar for Thuli because I found out she liked lunch bars. And I give her a lunch bar. She gives me another hug and we wish each other well. And off I go and I think, I love that lady. I really do love her. And so there's some remarkable people in customer service and behind counters in this country that are just warm and happy and glowing and golden, and that's who you want to employ. And there are people like that. Thuli's one of them, and there are others. So I wouldn't say it's non-existent, but you got to find the diamonds. I used to be the customer is king, no more. It's like drawing blood, being treated as a client. You see, so this is something I learned in the restaurant business. I remember a customer telling me that there was a group of kids, youngsters, that came in and they ordered calamari starters and they wanted a table of 10, but there were only 5 of them there, and they said their other 5 friends were still coming, but they wanted to start eating. And then I caught one of them on the telephone coming out the bathroom going, no, dude, we said Prime Grill. Where are you at the Spur? No, we're at the... the two groups had gone to different restaurants. And I heard on the telephone call them decide, okay, we'll leave here and we'll join you at the Spur. So I knew they were going to leave. Without them telling me, I overheard it. I knew they were going to leave, and then one of the youngsters said to me, sorry, could you please... So I go over, and he says, there's a hair in my calamari starter. That's a famous trick, that one. There's a hair in my calamari starter. Now, nobody in my kitchen had blonde hair, and it was a blonde hair. And the waitress who served it didn't have blonde hair either. And the hair on the calamari plate was blonde. And the person who was telling me about the hair on their plate was also blonde. And so I said, would you like to come into the kitchen to find someone with blonde hair? And they said, no. And I said, did your waitress have blonde hair? No. I said, well, I think that's your hair. I think they were just trying to get out of it, you know. They were like trying to find a way to leave, and that was like the way to do it. And in that case, they were wrong. They were 100% wrong, because there was no one on my staff that could have put a blonde hair or fallen on the plate. It was definitely the person just being full of nonsense. Now, in that case, the customer is not right. The customer is wrong. But the customer is still king. Even that wrong customer is still king. And so I learned that in the restaurant business, you have to, there are times when the customer is wrong, and you have to tell them they're wrong. But you don't have to treat them like rubbish when you're doing it, because the customer is still king. So for me, there's a very big difference between the customer is always right. I think that's incorrect. Sometimes the customer is wrong. But is the customer king? Yes, always. Except the bad ones that you have to kick out, of course. There's always an exception to every rule. How I love Tuesdays and Thursdays. You are hilarious. I'm trying to be. Police are the crime, says Anita. Respect your elders, young lady. Tom for Velter-Freden Mayor. I would love that job. Mayor of Velter-Freden Park. What kind of car could they get? Give me a Suzuki Jimny. And I drive around checking that everyone's doing their work. Say, come on, those potholes aren't going to fix themselves, chaps. Yeah, I wouldn't mind doing. That's the only place I would be mayor of, is Velter-Freden Park. Emily says, I haven't voted for many years. I realized you're voting for a different wing of the same bird. I also think so, Emily. Don't tell anyone, because I always say I go and vote. But sometimes, once or twice, I haven't. Once or twice, I've thought, what's the bloody use? And so you know what I do? I get a black permanent marker and I make a dot on my thumb. That's it. And then people go, oh, you voted. Well done. I go, yes. But I think the upcoming elections, the local government elections, I definitely will vote in, because I think we need some change. Tom, you're talking the federal system in the USA, country by country, everything. Yeah, watch the podcast with Leon Lowe, the latest one, where he talks about our constitution, which allows for federalism. And in fact, the Western Cape has its own constitution, and we're able to do that in this country. Leon contends that South Africa is actually a federal system if you go into the constitution and dissect it, or it can be. We, Pamula, as a community, get together and fix things, clear bushes, etc. We stand together. More and more people are just going, let's just make our little area work. And if everyone did that, we'd have a great country. Right, the fireplace is lit, hot chocolate is made. How do I get Tom to extend today's show? I don't know. I honestly don't know. I can't answer that question. I also want to go home. I was doing a lot of editing yesterday. From 6 in the morning till midnight last night, I edited. And then I got up at 4 this morning and I edited some more. I am so tired of looking at computer screens that all I want to do is go home and watch a movie. That's what happens. You stare at screens all day. You say, I can't stare at screens anymore. Let me relax. And what do? You stare at a screen. Good day, dysfunctional, says Yvonne Duplessis. Just a joke from my daughter Lil. She and Tom have an understanding, always joking. That's right. Tell her who's the boss. These young people, Alistair, sigh. Oh, they're having a grumpy conversation there. So some people have pressed the like button. Some have pressed the heart button. One or two have ha-ha'd along the way. I was going to dissect a whole lot of news with you, but I mean, we've only got 10 minutes to go. So, well, let's go over to IOL's page and see what they got to say. Okay, so the social development minister who put cars in her daughter's name and sent domestic workers down to her house that she didn't live in, and half the money went to she's gone. Goodbye, Sissi Tolashe. Thank you for your service. Now you can go home and hopefully to jail. EFF and MK walkout as Ramaphosa. Well, Edwin Sodi, business partner, ordered to pay back 40 million over failed prison. So these people are called business partners, businessmen. I've got another word for them. Court to decide the fate of a 5-year-old girl born in prison as guardianship. I don't even want to discuss that. Hawks Lieutenant Colonel Nkwana Sebola testifies on the Eriton drug busted. Madlanga Commission was only going to, I think it's been extended, 5 times? Or these commissions, they just keep extended because you think you got to the end of the rot. You haven't. You've just scratched it. You've just the tip of the iceberg. All we've seen is the little teeny tip of the iceberg. And you keep saying, well, what happened there? You got to bring another person. Oh, well, someone will make a bit of money out of that. What do these commissions cost? $1 billion or $2 billion? Parliament appoints 31-member panel to reassess the Pala report with impeachment on the table. We know that. Donald Trump is in China at the moment. Took, 25 or 100 or something of the biggest company CEOs with him. Gonna do a trade deal. A big, beautiful trade deal. You're gonna do one of those. I brought all the CEOs. I can't do his voice. Western Club Cape flood disaster tended. Horrible. That should be the number one story. But then, we love sports. So Mamelodi Sundowns and Orlando Pirates going head-to-head is probably going to be the biggest story this week. And then it just becomes nonsense after that. The hidden dangers of salt. I could read the article to you, but I think we all know if you have a little bit of salt is fine. Too much salt will kill you. And depending on how much it is, if you just have a little bit a bit too much every day for your whole life, cause some trouble later on in life, and the next thing you need to go to the doctor. But if you have 5 kilograms of salt, well, then you'll frack immediately. It's the same with water. You got to watch how much. But anyway, I think someone obviously decided that was a big story. Be careful of the salt. Most people are worried about criminals, but, hey, let's be careful of the salt. Rising fuel prices. This is something we've just accepted as normal, that the price goes up, and, it's crazy, but it's normal. And you speak to the e-hailing drivers and you speak to people who do a lot of driving on a daily basis, they are sickling. People are crying over this fuel thing. I did tell you I didn't think it would affect me that much with the Ubers and the Bolts, but the prices did go up. That you go, what? $300 to get home? It's normally one. So yeah, it does. Eventually it affects everything, including the price of food. Talking about petrol and fuel prices, there's another hike coming up in June. There we go. And the oil producing companies and the government go,
thank you very much,
because the money goes to them. Fuel prices set to rise. Oh my goodness, it's just about. South African petrol stations face survival challenges due to. Do you believe that? No, man, I think they're doing fine. Sometimes I don't know what to believe. Sometimes I don't know what to believe. And then there's a whole lot of other news that by the time you get to the bottom of the page, you're like, nah, I don't want to read any of that. And that's it. That's how it works. Back to the comments we go. I also have to watch my temper and my words. I would not believe that, Margaret Guyder. You look like a sweetie pie. So I try and breathe deeply and be as nice to I can to all people. It pays dividends. Eunice says she's happy she's been entertaining people. She's blessed to be in the metaverse. Very lucky, yes. I'm just listening, busy packing boxes, says Nikki. Ooh. Packing box. That's not a bad job, that packing boxes. I quite like packing boxes. I hope you're enjoying the boxes. The south coast of Natal has a group called Tidy Towns that fix things, clean things and mow lawns. So much that when Margate lost its beachfront, they jumped in and sorted it out in a few days. Christmas season was a blast as a result. Nice to hear. Still wondering who reported those undeclared dollars were stolen. Yeah, we'll never get to the bottom of that. Tom for Velterfreden Park Mayor. Yeah. Well, who knows from there? No, that would be enough. That would be the highlight of my life. Being the mayor of Velterfreden Park. Well, yeah, the guys driving back, he spent 1,000 Rand a day from the West Rand to Alberton and back. Yeah. you know the the gas guzzlers, the guys with the big American V8s, the Jeeps, and the people with the big engine cars. You don't see them put in foot as much as you used to, you know. You can be in a Suzuki Celerio and you can overtake an S63 AMG because that guy knows if he puts his foot down on the accelerator, like that, $400. Like that. So I keep saying, hey man, get rid of your gas guzzlers and go and buy a Suzuki. Celerio, that's one of my favorites. 4.5, 5 liters per 100 k's. You don't even feel these increases. But anyway, I can't tell you what to do. It's your choice. If you want to pay more for fuel, that's your story. But hey, some people are stuck with cars that do like 12 liters per 100 k's and go fill the tank and it's 2,000 rand. Sell the car. Sell the car. Mandy Wilson, my friend, tell Tom how clever your daughter is. 3 degrees and distinctions. Well done. Oh, well, a drum roll for Mandy Wilson. That was loud again, Daryl. A bit softer, man. A lot softer, please. That's better. Hello, Mandy Wilson's daughter. Well-educated lady. 3 degrees and distinctions. Well done. Yeah, an educated lady. She can look after her husband if he's a no good, if he's a useless bum. She could look after a useless bum. She'd have enough money to do it. She's got to make sure she doesn't land up with a useless bum. Unless she likes useless bums. Some people do. Some people like to have a partner who's a useless bum. For some reason, I don't know what it is. Maybe they don't give them too much trouble or something. You don't have to expect too much from them. Maybe that's what it is. Get yourself a partner who's a useless idiot. And you will never wait for them to live up to their expectations, your expectations of them. You will never demand them that they live up to your expectations. You can just allow them to live down to your expectations of them, and then the relationship will be fine. Maybe that's what I've been doing wrong all these years. Maybe, maybe not. Okay, so coming up in the next, is it next week? Maybe next week. Next week, we have got a lady from the Dacha organization. I love saying that word, the Dacha. Fields of Green for All, Amy Haystack. I've been watching her for years, and the other day I said, please come on the show, and she said, absolutely. I saw her on the back of a truck doing a protest thing with a microphone, and I thought, no, time for you to join us on the show. So I think it's next week. It's the 21st. Is that next week? Next week, Thursday, I think it is. We'll be chatting to Amy Haystack. From Fields of Green for All, and we'll spend a whole hour talking about ganja, about dacha, about cannabis, about marijuana. That's next week, Thursday. We'll sit here and talk about all the bad things that it can do to you. But no, really what we'll do is find out what the law is saying and what's actually happening on the ground. It will be an interesting conversation. And yeah, we'll do some more of that as we go through the month. I can't believe we're almost halfway through the year. Ulrika Janssen van Rensburg, you go. She's in the office behind me. You go, Tommy. Mayor, you got my vote. Dankie, Ulrika! Normally Ulrika makes coffee, but today Daryl made the coffee. Thanks, Daryl. That's too loud. Okay, I think that's it. It's 4 o'clock. This is when us government workers go home. Civil servant shower. Do you remember that? Summertime, 4 o'clock. Thunderstorm. People would say, that's the civil servant shower. That's how you know they're leaving and they're going home now. Yeah, I think that's it. Okay. Well, I don't know what you got planned for the weekend. I've got an editing job Friday and Saturday, but I think I can do it all on Friday, and then I've got I want to have one whole weekend off because I haven't for a couple of weeks. I want to have a whole weekend off, and I think this weekend will be the weekend that I do it. I hope you have a wonderful Thursday night. I hope you're warm. I hope you're not one of the displaced. I hope your roof never blew off. I hope you still got a roof. I hope you got food in your fridge. I hope you got people being nice to you. And even if you're alone, the one thing I've learned about living alone is no one can be nasty to you. It's a major advantage. And then all you have to do is be nice to yourself, and you've got yourself the perfect relationship. So, yeah, in the absence of anyone around you, be kind to yourself. And, I hope you're feeling well and you've got joy in your heart and you're looking forward to waking up tomorrow. And I'll catch you on Tuesday at 3 p.m., where we could do anything on the show. I think it's time to give a prize away again. The power bank was very, very successful. People were fighting over a power bank. So I'll go and ask around here at Africa Mobile if they've got any more of those power banks, and perhaps we'll give some stuff away on Tuesday, 3 p.m. Tuesday, 3 p.m. is when we'll... is when I'll join you. See how Rika's getting defensive here. I always make coffee. Next time. Reg so, Tommy. Okay, dankie, Rika. Sien jou in 'n minuut of 2, né? And I'll see you on Tuesday at 3 o'clock. Don't forget to wrap up warmly. Make sure your gas bottle's fully charged, that you got logs next to the fire, or you've warmed up the brick in the oven. Because would you believe some of the people who watch this show still put a brick in their bed? Enjoy the brick, enjoy the fire, enjoy the snuggling, enjoy the cuddling, enjoy winter. It's a beautiful time of the year if you love it, and it's a rubbish time of the year if you hate it. But try and enjoy it. Have a nice hot bath or a shower. Yeah, that's it. Those are my wishes for you. See you on Tuesday. The show is brought to you by Suzuki Kyalami. They are, no joke, they're the home of happy customers. Tell them Tom sent you.